Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I am John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic, interesting. Let's do it. What's a fact that shouldn't be true, but is? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. There is a parasite that will eat your brain. It's called Naegleria fowleri, and it lives in warm water lakes in the sand and silt in the shallows. It will swim up your nose and proceed to eat your neurons and your brain. Usually, symptoms occur around 4 hours after infection and include headache, sensitivity to light, and nausea. If you experience any of these after swimming in a lake, you need to go to the hospital ASAP. If undiagnosed, you'll be dead within 24 hours. To diagnose it, you'll have to get a spinal tap and pray the tech working knows what to look for. You could have mad cow disease for 12 to 50 years before symptoms start showing. Some monks used to endure a spiritual practice whereby they eliminated all their body fat through diet and exercise, ate wood lacquer tea to kill off internal bacteria, then sealed themselves in a tomb holding a string attached to a bell. A year after the bell stopped ringing, the tomb was opened, and if the monk's body was found to be uncorrupted, they were revered as a saint. If not, they were reburied. The process took years, and as they could continue, the monks required more and more help from their brothers until they entered the tomb. And the whole time you'd hear bells ringing from the nearby tombs as the monks inside slowly wound down the last days of their lives, voluntarily poisoned, starved, and buried alive for a chance at sainthood. In 2009, a paralyzed Belgian awoke from a 23-year-long coma, and it was discovered he was fully conscious and could hear everything around him the entire time. Like, what the actual F? Just imagine lying there not being able to move for 2 decades. But 60% of murders are unsolved here in Pakistan. We simply don't have the technology and training of the police officers in the West. In the NT, Australia, I remember seeing a government warning that crocodiles inhabit the area. Among the few bullet points of advice on the sign, the last one read, "If they see you, it's already too late." An unbelievable number of people who die of dehydration do so with a fair amount of fresh water in their possession. One of the experiments the Japanese did during World War II at Unit 731 was cutting off limbs of living, waking people without anesthesia and sewing those limbs onto other prisoners. They also infected male prisoners with various infectious diseases, then forced them at gunpoint to our pregnant prisoners to see if the disease would transmit to the baby. Everything that Unit 731 did was on par with the worst of the worst in World War II, and yet some of the leaders of that unit got off scot-free. It's not right. There are more Panda Express locations in the world than actual panda bears. Pigs can dispose of a body with relative ease. If a person gets bitten by an animal who has rabies, he will continue to live on a normal life for 12 weeks, and after the symptoms develop, there's no way he's making it out alive. You'll know you're gonna die. In Mississippi and some parts of Florida, there is a bacteria in the water at the coast that will literally eat your flesh off of you. Florida is much safer than Mississippi though, at least in that aspect. There's a mosquito in Florida that, when it bites you, can make your brain swell inside your skull and can possibly kill you. There are at least 2 genocides taking place now on this planet, and dozens have happened since World War II ended. Every single year, there are thousands of people in the US alone who disappear. Most of them show up again, usually the next day, but sometimes a few days, a few weeks, or even a few months later. However, out of these thousands of people, there are roughly 150 people every single year who disappear and simply never appear again. Nobody knows what happened to those people. They might be dead, they might not be. We simply don't know. Dylan Klebold, one of the killers of the Columbine massacre, attended the school's prom 3 nights before the shooting. When he got home, he was talking to his mom and showed her the flask he'd brought to prom, explaining that they'd only drank a little bit. He told her, "I just wanted you to know you can trust me." It's so chilling that he could say that, and less than 72 hours later, participate in the killing of 13 other people and himself. The Amazon forest has a huge gap of virgin forest between Brazil and other countries, places kilometers away from the nearest cities. The Brazilian Institute for Native Indians, FUNAI, has got agents overlooking tribes, and they take flights over the forest and always end up spotting huts, fire pits, and bow and arrowed men. There are plenty of unknown tribes hiding somewhere in that huge forest, people never contacted by civilization. The fun fact is, even the Institute agents have no idea of number, types, and tribes they're inside. Can't track down, account, or detect their genealogy. Amazon forest is a complex and humid place. You can hide a family of elephants there inside and you won't see it from the sky. And why should we disturb them? They've been outside of the reach of civilization this far. Just let them be. Khaled El-Masri is a German and Lebanese citizen who was mistakenly abducted by the Macedonian police in 2003 and handed over to the US CIA. While in CIA custody, he was flown to Afghanistan, where he was held at a black site and routinely interrogated, beaten, and strip-searched, sodomized, and subjected to other cruel forms of inhumane and degrading treatment and torture. After El-Masri held hunger strikes and was detained for 4 months in the salt pit, the CIA finally admitted his arrest and torture were a mistake and released him. He's believed to be among an estimated 3,000 detainees whom the CIA abducted from 2001 to 2005. In May of 2004, the U.S. ambassador to Germany, Daniel R. Coates, convinced the German Interior Minister, Otto Schily, not to press charges or to reveal the program. El-Masri filed suit against the CIA for his arrest, extraordinary rendition, and torture. In 2006, his suit, El-Masri v. Tenet, in which he was represented by the ACLU, was dismissed by the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Virginia based on the U.S. government's claiming the state secrets privilege. The ACLU said the Bush administration attempted to shield its abuses by invoking this privilege. The case was also dismissed by the Appeals Court for the Fourth Circuit, and in December 2007, the United States Supreme Court declined to hear the case. On 13 December 2012, El-Masri won an Article 34 case at the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. The court determined he had been tortured while held by CIA agents and ruled that Macedonia was responsible for abusing him while in the country and knowingly transferring him to the CIA when torture was a possibility. It awarded him compensation, which was F-all. This marked the first time that CIA activities against detainees was legally declared as torture. The European Court condemned nations for collaborating with the United States in these secret programs. You might feel like the healthiest person in the world, and yet still randomly die in your sleep. Sudden arrhythmic death syndrome is just one example. There are tons of small obstructions and irregularities that your heart could be suffering from that go completely unnoticed by you, your friends, and your doctors. You might be at an increased risk of just passing on when you go to bed tonight, and no one would even suspect as much until you actually died. A lone pilot was flying in Australia in 1978. He reported to air traffic control that he was accompanied by an aircraft above him. When asked to identify the aircraft, he replied it isn't an aircraft. His plane disappeared and was never to be found again. When you have scurvy, all your old scars and wounds open up due to the vitamin needed to maintain scar tissue. So for me, for example, I had my jaw dislocated and my gums cut open from cheek to cheek to remove wisdom teeth. If I got scurvy, I would bleed uncontrollably from the inside of my mouth out. What would be your most horrifying scar? Whatever the shit is at the bottom of the ocean, seriously, we know so little about this place, and we've seen so much murderous shit down there that we've only scratched the surface on how much nightmare fuel is actually down there. Something is eating the Milky Way galaxy. No, it isn't the plot for a Star Trek episode, it's really happening. In 2009, researchers found a cluster of galaxies moving at an extraordinary speed towards a small patch of sky between the constellations of Centaurus and Vela. Some unknown force is tearing away chunks of the galaxy, and astronomers still have no clue what exactly is causing it. It's been named Dark Flow. There is something big out there, far bigger than anything in our known universe. Such a behemoth would impose a kind of tilt on the universe, causing matter to move in one particular direction, as observations of the dark flow suggest. Could be anything, up to and including another universe or Galactus. It's estimated that at least 1 in 7 children in the US has experienced child abuse or neglect in the past year. Neglect is the most common form of CA, followed by physical abuse, SA, and psychological abuse. There's a place on Mount Everest called the Rainbow Valley, which takes its name not from the rainbow that you can see from it, but the colors of the jackets of hundreds and hundreds of corpses that lay across the valley. Pretty scary. I've seen and read a lot of documentaries and books about Everest, and Rainbow Valley is haunting, as it is pretty incredible to see. I don't know how horrifying this might be, but if you get water between your contact lens and your eye and don't clean it for a long period of time, there's a chance some form of bacteria can get into your eye and will eat away at your vision until it's gone. Apparently, doctors won't know if it's there until it's too late as well. Always use solution, folks. In Argentina, we have no DNA bank and a barely functional fingerprint detection system, even though we have invented that bitch. Also, negligence by forensics is the norm. What does this mean? In Argentina, if you kill someone you don't like, but the cops never suspect you, you'll never, ever be remotely close to being busted. In fact, anyone could get away with murdering a stranger at any time without previous preparation. And if they somehow catch you red-handed, a life sentence is 35 years here, with parole every couple of years. And there's a law that says that by every 2 people that get incarcerated, 1 must be freed. So there's always the chance you'll get randomly freed. Also, the average time a killer does here is between 10 and 20 years. The fact that we don't murder each other as much means anarchy could possibly work, I guess.